Shell voicings include just the essential notes of a chord that's typically going to be the root, the third, then either a seventh or a sixth. Shell voicings are effective on their own, but sometimes you're going to want to add another note or two, either for color, for chord melody playing, or just because you want a bigger sound. We're going to take a look at shell voicings with roots on strings 5 and 6 and see what kind of notes we can add. And we're mostly going to explore root position chords, but you can also use this approach to figure out rootless voicings. If you'd like to take a closer look at these diagrams, you can download them for free from my website. Click the link in the description. This set of shell voicings has root notes on the 6th string, and they all include a major third. I went over these in greater detail in another video. I'll leave a link for that in the description. Right now I'm just going to go through the row and name the chords. Major triad with a root, a 5th, and a 3rd. Augmented triad. Major 6th. Dominant 7. Major 7. And then another major chord with 2 roots and a 3rd on top. Here are some notes we might typically add to these shell voicings. Some of these are going to be impossible to reach, so we're going to focus on just the most practical, playable ones. That's going to be the major 6 shell voicing, the dominant 7, and the major 7 shell voicing. Let's first look at this dominant 7 shell voicing. If you want to fill it out with a 5th, there's one right here on the 2nd string. You could make it a flat 5. You could make it a sharp 5. You could make it a 13th chord. And let's say you want to add this high sounding root note on top. Now I'm playing fingerstyle, so I'm just plucking the strings I need and ignoring the others. If you're strumming and you want to play that high root note, you're going to want to add that 5th right here on the 5th string. I'm going to go back to fingerstyle now. You can add this flat 9. And then here's a 9th you can add on the 1st string. You can add any of these notes to this major 6 shell voicing, but the most common additions will be this row of notes on the 2nd string, in particular the 5th and the flat 5, which in this case will function more as a sharp 11, and we can use this 13th as well. When you add a 13th to a major type chord, it functions as the 6th. So you could take this major shell voicing that has the root, and a 3rd, add this note on top to form a major 6 chord. And if you bar, you can add that root note on top. Like the major 6 chord, the most common additions to this major 7 shape will also be on the 5th string. We can add the 5th, we can add the flat 5, which again functions as more of a sharp 11 in this case, and you could also add this sharp 5 for an augmented sound. Now let's check out some possibilities with shell voicings that have minor thirds with the root on the 6th string. Here's our row. We have a minor triad with a root, a 5th, and a flat 3 on top. A minor with a flat 6. You could also call that a sharp 5 if you like. Minor 6. Minor 7. Minor with a major 7. And then another minor chord with 2 roots and a flat 3 on top. And these are some notes you can add on the 1st and 2nd strings. As before, we're going to stick to the most practical voicings to add these notes to. That will be the minor 6 and the minor 7 shell voicing. We can take this minor 6 shell voicing and add a 5th on the 2nd string. And if you bar with your 3rd finger, you can add this high root note on the 1st string, and your pinky is also free to add the 9th on the 1st string. And you can add those same notes to the minor 7 shell voicing. So if you bar with your 3rd finger, you can add the 5th, bar a little bit more to add that high root note on the 1st string, and again, your pinky is free to add this 9th on the 1st string. Now we're going to add some extra notes to shell voicings that have the root on the 5th string. These all include a major 3rd, major triad with a root 3-5, augmented triad, major 6, dominant 7, major 7, and then another major chord with 2 root notes and a 3rd. And here are some notes you can add. Most of this video focuses on root position chords, but these fifths on the 6th string are very easy to add, so I'm going to include those as well. And again, you can try any combination of notes that you like, but I'm going to stick to what is most usable. So here's that major shell voicing with the root 3 and 5. You can add this upper root note on the 2nd string if you like, and you can play the 5th in the bass instead of the root. And if you play this 9th on the 2nd string, you have an add 9 chord. And you can play the 5th in the bass if you prefer. And here's that major 6 shell voicing. You can add this upper root note on the 2nd string. You could play the 5th in the bass if you like. And if you play the 9th, you can change this to a major 6-9 chord. And your pinky is available to play the 5th on the 1st string. And you can get a really beefy 6-9 chord if you add the 5th in the bass. And here's that dominant 7 shell voicing. You can add this root note on the 2nd string. You can play any of these 5ths in the bass. Here's your regular 5th, flat 5, sharp 5. And you can add any of these 9ths on the 2nd string. This would be a 9th chord, flat 9, sharp 9. And you could also add any of those 5ths in the bass if you like. You could also extend this 9th. If you bar, you can add this 5th on top, or this sharp 5, or this 13th. And again, you can experiment with adding those 5ths in the bass. Here's a major 7 shell voicing. The major 9 chord is one of my favorites. To form that chord, you can add this 9th on the 2nd string, or you can add a 5th on the 1st string, and of course, you could play the 5th in the bass. This last set of shell voicings also has root notes on the 5th string. This time, each one has a minor 3rd. Minor triad with root flat 3 and 5. Minor with a flat 6. You could also call that a sharp 5 if you like. Minor 6. Minor 7. Minor with a major 7. And then another minor chord with 2 roots and a 3rd in the middle. Here are some notes we can add, and as always, we're going to stick to what is practical. There is really only one note that I typically add to this minor shell voicing with the root 3-5. That is the 7th on the 2nd string, and you just bar that. And now you have a minor major 7 chord. Here's that minor 6 shell voicing. You can bar with your 1st finger to play another root note on the 2nd string. You could add the 5th on the 1st string with your pinky, or you could play the 5th in the bass on the 6th string. You could add the 9th on the 2nd string, and of course you could play the 5th in the bass. And finally, we'll play around with this minor 7 shell voicing. You can bar with your 1st finger and play another root on the 2nd string. And of course you can play the 5th in the bass on the 6th string. Now this voicing, this shell voicing, does not include a 5th, but if you need to play a minor 7 flat 5 and you want to hear that flat 5, you have a couple options. You can play this flat 5 on the 1st string. That can be a little tricky to grab, but this flat 5 on the 6th string is pretty easy to find. You can add this 9th on the 2nd string, and now this shell voicing has turned into a minor 9 chord. And of course you can play the 5th in the bass. If you want to play around with these and need a good reference, you can download all the diagrams in this lesson for free. Click the free downloads link in the description and scroll down until you find the Extending Shell Voicings PDF. And for more guitar lessons, music theory, and solo guitar arrangements, please subscribe.